Gentlemen, what is going on today? My name is Ryan Mickler. I'm your host and the founder of the Order of Man podcast and movement. Welcome here today. If you're brand new and you're just finding us here in the beginning of 2024, I want to let you know that this is a podcast dedicated to giving you tools and resources and conversations that you need to thrive in your life as a man. If you're showing up as a husband, a brother, a father, a husband, I think I said husband already, a business owner, a community leader, we're here to support you. I want to give you everything that you need. And we do this podcast. We've got our merchandise store. We've got courses and programs available. And we've got our exclusive brotherhood, the Iron Council, which is not currently open, but it will be here in the next few months. And we're also doing events. And I'm going to be releasing some event dates here in the next week or so. So stay tuned for that. Glad you're here. Glad you're tuning in. Today, I want to talk with you about telling yourself the truth and being honest and talking about not only why that is so important, but share with you a couple of my own personal stories and tell you how you can actually incorporate the truth from yourself and from other people to accomplish and achieve more in your life. I titled this one, The Truth Shall Set You Free. And if you're feeling trapped or stuck or non productive, then I think it's the truth, the honest evaluation of where you stand that will help you propel to the next place in your life. Now, before I get into that, I just want to mention my friends and the show sponsors over at Montana Knife Company. Montana Knife Company and the guys there support me. They believe in the mission here. They believe in what we're doing, and they believe in America, and they believe in hard work and manufacturing, creativity, and doing all the things that we espouse here as men at Order of Man. If you guys are looking for a knife, want a knife, whether it's in the kitchen or out in the field, or an everyday carry, then what I would suggest to you is to check out montanaknifecompany.com. I would specifically check out their Speed Goat 2.0. This is a little bit smaller. It's a fixed blade, and it's something that you can carry on your person. If you're jogging, if you're hiking, if you're wherever you might be on a walk with your wife, it's nice to have a knife, not only for the utility of it, but also some self-defense. And if you want to get a special gift for the woman in your life, this is a very low profile knife. It's a fixed blade, something that she can use to protect herself if she's on her own shopping or running or doing errands or doing chores or at the gym, wherever it might be. If she needs to protect herself, I want to make sure that she has something available to her. Check out the Speed Goat 2.0. And if you end up picking up a knife at montanaknifecompany.com, use the code Order of Man at checkout. All right, guys, let's get into this. I want to start by sharing a story that I was reminded of the other day. This happened years ago. I have a friend of mine. His name is Jordan Harbinger. And many of you listening to this podcast know Jordan, know of his podcast. He's a phenomenal podcaster. He's underrated. In fact, his interview skills are among the best that I have ever heard. And I've learned a lot from him by listening to the way that he interviews his guests, but also just our own personal interaction. And years ago, before I really felt like I was hitting strides with Order of Man, I asked him if I could join him on his podcast, which at the time was called Art of Charm. He's since gone on his own, and he's now running his own podcast called The Jordan Harbinger Show. So I asked if I could be on Art of Charm, and he said yes. And he made an exception for me because we were friends and we'd been talking. And so I came on his show and we were having a conversation, and I didn't really feel like the conversation was going well. And clearly he didn't feel like it was going well. And he did something that was both offensive at the time, but also very liberating and very helpful to me. And looking back on it now, I'm actually very grateful for it. He stopped the conversation midway and he said, "Hey, you know what, Ryan, this conversation is not going very well. Like it doesn't seem like you have a direction or points that you want to make. And so I'm not sure that we can even air this." And again, it was very hard to hear that in the moment. And I did take a little bit of offense to it at the time. I tried to be as gracious as I could and understanding as I could, but I was offended. And because he was telling me the truth, and he knew what his audience wanted to hear. He knew that he wasn't getting it from me, and I wasn't as polished as maybe I could have been. And I could have been offended, and I could have probably argued with him or debated with him or questioned why he was doing that, all sorts of things that we do as men. And instead I decided to take, in a moment of clarity, the higher road. And I said, "Hey, you know what, Jordan, I'm sorry you're not getting what you want. Is there something that I can do better? Is there something that I can learn from this, something that I can improve upon? And maybe we can do this in the future." And he said, yeah, Ryan, I think that you probably need to go back to the drawing board and clarify your message, maybe tighten it up a little bit. Maybe it's write a book and have some principles that you want to share. And he gave me some really good, helpful pointers. And I was very disappointed at the time that he didn't want to air the half of the podcast that we had done up to that point. And it was hard. But I took what he said to heart, and I decided that I am going to tighten up my message. And I decided to write a book, and I wrote the book Sovereignty: The Battle for the Hearts and Minds of Men. And it's been very, very successful. And I reached back out to Jordan probably a year or so later after I had written the book. And I said to Jordan, and we had talked in the meantime, but I said to him, hey, you told me to tighten up my message. You told me to write a book and then to revisit. And that's what I did. I think he was a little surprised. I think he was a little taken back that I had, number one, done it, and number two, had the audacity and the balls to ask him to be back on the podcast. So I gave him a copy of my book, and he read it and prepped for the interview. And I joined him for a conversation on the Art of Charm podcast, which again now is the Jordan Harbinger Show. And we had an amazing conversation about the book and about the outline, and it was very structured, and I had a lot to share based on some research I had done. It was significantly better. And he was glad that I was able to reach back out to him. He was very surprised that I fell through or followed through with what we had talked about. But I think the point here that I wanted to share with you is that even though other people are going to be honest with you, and at times you're going to be required to be honest with yourself, and it's not going to feel good, and it's going to hurt, and it's going to sting, and it's going to be awkward, and it's going to be uncomfortable, is that the truth is powerful. You cannot improve your life unless you're willing to objectively look at your own life and identify where you're falling short, where you need improvement, how you can get better, and then having people be honest with you. And I'm going to talk about 5 points that I think will help you on this truthful journey so that you can improve. But I would have you consider that maybe the reason you don't have what you want to have in life, whether it's your relationship or the body and the physique that you're looking for, or the bank account that you desire, or the vacations or life that you dream of, is you might not be being honest with yourself. So let's talk about 5 things that you can do and you can incorporate: mindsets, principles, beliefs, and tactics that will help you be honest, which will ultimately drive results. Number 1, you have to make a commitment to the truth, regardless of how painful. It is in our DNA and it is in our nature to run away, to avoid, to hide from confrontation, from difficulty, from challenge, from hard conversations, from exposure, from vulnerability. And I'm using the word vulnerability in the right context. We don't want to expose ourselves to unnecessary risk. And so at times we'll pull the wool over our eyes and tell ourselves, yeah, I know I'm not healthy, but it's not that bad. Yeah, I know the relationship that I'm having with my wife is in a real rut right now, but we'll get through it. Yeah, I know work isn't going that well, but this is just a season. It will get better. Those are all methodologies or even tactics and mindsets that you and I are using and deploying in our everyday life to keep us safe, comfortable, and secure. It's our job at the baseline biological level to maintain, to survive, to pass down our DNA, and everything above and beyond that is gravy. It's just bonus, it's extra. And so we're trying to survive. We're these super efficient, sophisticated biological machines. And yet, in our DNA and in our minds at the base level, we're just trying to survive. That's it. How can I pass down my DNA to my posterity? It's not going to produce the ultimate desire that you want. We have to elevate ourselves. And in order to do that, you have to be willing to commit yourself, even if it's painful, especially if it's painful, especially if it's difficult and uncomfortable. You have to commit to being an honest individual. That's what I want in my life. I want to be honest and truthful about the things I'm doing well, sure, but also my shortcomings so that I can make those better and I can improve in my life and I can improve the people around me. Number 2, I want you to begin to quantify your results. Most of us, and I've done this too, will bury our heads in the sand and tell ourselves, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I don't want to look at that. I'm good. And so we don't look at it. What don't we look at? Well, when's the last time you jumped on a scale? For those of you who are in shape, you don't have any problem jumping on the scale because you know you're locked in. But if you know even deep down inside of you that you're 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 pounds overweight, you don't want to jump on that scale. How many of you are willing to look at your bank account? Those of you who are financially successful have no problem looking at your bank account. I'll pull up my bank account all day long. I don't care. I don't have any debt. I stay within my budget. I've got investments. I've got businesses. I've got real estate. I've got a nest egg set aside. Tell me to pull up my account. I have no issue with that. But some of you do because you know how much debt you're in. You know that you're in the negative. You know that you're living paycheck to paycheck. And so rather than actually address it like a man would address it, you're not even willing to look at it because you know how bad it is. How many of you know, at least on some intuitive level, that your relationship is struggling, that the communication between you and your wife is hurting, that she's not engaged as much as she's been in the past, that you're not as engaged as you've been in the past, that you guys haven't had conversations, that you're not going on dates, that you're not doing the things that you were doing when you were courting and dating and loving on each other. You know that. And yet, are you willing to quantify it? When's the last time you had sex? When's the last time you had a deep and meaningful conversation? I'm not talking about what the kids had at cafeteria for lunch or, what their school teacher said or any of that stuff. I'm talking about a real deep, meaningful conversation about life and dreams and hopes and goals and desires and fears. When's the last time that you felt really, really good about your relationship? When's the last time you went on a date with her? And what did that look like? And what did you do? Did you do the bare minimum? Or did you exceed her even wildest expectations and go above and beyond? The point I'm making here, guys, is you've got to quantify. How productive are you really at work? If you can't look at your schedule and say, I've got a meeting, I did 7 meetings today, and here's the results of each of those meetings, and here's how they're progressing, or here's how they're not, and you can't look at that, then you don't really know. You're guessing. Now it's an educated guess, but what's happening is your emotion is clouding your decision-making process. It's making you seem better than you really are. And we have a tremendous ability to deceive ourselves, to fool, to trick ourselves into believing that everything's fine, everything's safe, we're okay. Well, you're not okay. And you intuitively know it. How do you know? Because you're not happy. You're dissatisfied. You're disgruntled. You're frustrated. You're depressed. You're anxious. You're suicidal even. Those are indicators that things aren't good for you. And unless you're willing to look objectively at the metrics, at the results, at the effort, then you're never going to improve. Number 3, now that you've committed to telling the truth and you're willing to quantify. So if you're worried about finances, guys, I need you to get out a spreadsheet. I know it's not comfortable. I need you to do it. If you're worried about your weight, I need you to jump on the scale. If you're worried about your business performance, I need you to schedule a quarterly review with your boss. Like, I've got to have you do that. I'll do it too. I am doing it. I'm willing to look at our results. I'll tell you what, like in relationships, sometimes I'm like, it's good. I don't want to address it. Or the growth of our podcast or bank account, or when things are struggling, I'm like, I think it's good. I don't want to look at it. And so I push it back. I know this is what we do. Now that we've got that knocked out of the way, the next thing that we need to do is we need to surround ourselves with truth tellers. And there are these truth tellers in life. They're people who will tell you things that you need to hear. And if you're anything like me, we tend to reject those people. We think they're being assholes. We think they're being overly critical. We think that they're enemies, not allies. And one thing I've said in the past is that not everyone who criticizes you is your enemy, and not everyone who praises you is your ally. So if we're talking about from enemies, not everybody who criticizes you guys is an enemy. And there's people that I have in my life who I have a hard time hearing from at times because they tell me things that are really, really uncomfortable. Now, as you achieve a level of success in your life, you're going to start to acquire what I call bobbleheads. And these are guys whose head goes like this. Whatever you say, up and down, if you're listening to this on audio, not video, but whatever you say, their head is bobbing up and down. Yes, you're right. You're great. You're wonderful. You have this all under control. You're doing a perfect job. I can't have those people in my life. That's the default. Everybody will tell you how great you are, except for on social media. Everybody will tell you how horrible you are. I'm talking about in real life. People are going to surround and tell you things that make make it sound like you're doing better than you are. And then the people who come into your life who you know love and care about you but say uncomfortable things, you're going to be repulsed and rejected by and reject them. You're not going to want those people in your life because they make you feel uncomfortable. They make you feel inferior. They point out your flaws. They highlight in you what you could be doing, but what are not doing to improve your life. Those are the kind of people that we need. Now, look, I'm not telling you need to have truth tellers who are a bunch of jerks who are just going to beat you up and bash you for no good reason. But we do need truth tellers whose motive is pure. And the motive is, I love you. I care about you. I want you to win. I know you're capable of more than what you're doing right now. I have a handful of people like that in my life. It's hard. Every time I talk with them, I'm like, ooh, I don't like what you just said. I don't like that. I mean, I might not vocalize it, but I can feel it like, oh, that one stings. That one hurts. Take it easy. Leave me alone. That's the kind of people that we need in our lives. So when you're around those people, the key there is not to diminish the type of individual and what they mean to you in your life. And it's very easy to do that. You can cut them out completely. You can defend yourself when they're telling you things. You can say things like, oh, well, maybe you're right, but I don't like the way you said it. That might all be true, but we're not going to diminish the people in our life like that because they're a value add. They are a tremendous, tremendous asset. And when somebody gives you feedback or even criticism, even if it's delivered in the poorest way possible, if you know this person has your best interest at heart, your only response should be thank you. Thank you. Thank you for telling me the truth. Thank you for helping me see that. Thank you for bringing to light something that I wasn't aware of. Thank you for expressing how you feel. The more we can be grateful for those individuals, the more we give them permission to continue to be honest and truthful with us, that even though it's hard, again, will serve and help us reap the benefits. Number 4, and this ties in line with what I just said, guys, we cannot let our emotions sabotage us. I believe that there's a proper place for our emotion. If you're angry or frustrated or happy or glad or sad or mad, that's feedback. That's good information to have. But we don't make decisions off of emotion alone. We just take it into consideration. So if you have a close personal friend or a brother, let's say, who shares with you something that is uncomfortable, that doesn't feel good to hear, that highlights and illustrates your own personal inadequacies, but you acknowledge it because you're looking for truth tellers, you acknowledge it to be true, don't let your emotions sabotage it. Don't let anger let you lash out. Don't let fear keep you from confronting and instead move you towards avoidance. Don't let the emotion get in the way. Just look at it as objectively as possible. If your brother-in-law comes to you and says, hey, man, like you're getting a little fat. Now, look, he could say that in a better way. Sure, of course. But the question we have to ask ourselves, is that true? And if you're packing on the pounds from the holiday season and you haven't lost it yet and you're 10, 15, 20 pounds overweight, then it's true. And it really doesn't matter how he delivered it. Now, sure, he has a responsibility of delivering it and communicating it effectively. We've talked about that in other podcasts. But for the sake of this conversation, I'm just talking about receiving messages, not delivering them. And if it's true, then it's true, regardless of how you feel about it. Ben Shapiro says, facts don't care about your feelings. If you're getting fat, it doesn't really matter how you feel about it. You're getting fat. Like we can actually measure that. I can pinch your belly and I can feel that extra little roll that shouldn't be there. And that's fat. That's objective. If you're making mistakes in your relationship, for example, then somebody could say, hey, bro, what are you doing? Like you're flirting with this person or this waitress, or you're out, drinking or whatever you're doing. You have a wife and kids at home. What the hell's going on with you? You're going to get defensive. Hey, it doesn't mean anything. You don't know my life. You don't know what I'm dealing with. That's emotion. Objectively, The answer is, you know what? Damn, you're right. I do have somebody at home who loves me. I do have kids I have a responsibility for. I do care about my own personal health. So, yeah, that was really hard to hear, but thank you for telling me. Don't let our emotions sabotage. Sure, you're angry. Sure, you're mad, glad, happy, sad, frustrated, greedy, jealous, whatever. You could experience that, sure. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, is what's being shared with me or my own personal account of what's going on, is it true and accurate? And if it is, then the emotion doesn't really matter. Yeah, you're fat. Some of you guys are fat. I'm not trying to be mean, but that's the reality. And so you need to know. Like, if you don't already know, somebody needs to tell you. If you're not working as hard at work as you could be, then, and I'm your friend and I care about you and want you to win, then I got to tell you, hey man, you're slacking at work. You're capable of way better quality than you just did. We used to have this when I was playing sports. I never made it to the collegiate level, but in high school I had friends and I love these guys. You know, we're friends, we're athletes together. We chase around the same girls, in high school and cheat off each other's tests and have each other's back and get drunk together and get into stupid shit together. Like, these are friends. These are guys that I love. And if I messed up, you know who I heard from? Those guys. They told me, they didn't even bat an eye. They told me, hey man, you dropped that ball. Like, catch that next time. What the hell? Or, hey, you missed that block. Or run harder. Like, what? Tackle that guy. What are you doing? You screwed up. We had that when we were kids. If you're in the military or sports or other programs with young men, you had that. But then when we get into the rest of life, that is gone. Very few people are willing to do that. We need to cherish those people like we did our teammates, because those people care about you. They love you. They want you to win. All right. And the last point that I want to make right here is this one I think might be the hardest. It really might be the hardest. And this is point number 5, is you need to tell the truth to other people. There might be some harsh truths in reality that family and friends need to hear from you, and you need to be the one to say it. Now, to my point earlier, we can have some tact. We can be empathetic. We can think about our delivery and the way we're communicating this. But at the end of the day, if you have a friendship or in a family type relationship, I believe that you have a responsibility to be honest with people. If you can't be honest, what good is the relationship? That's what I want. That's what I want in my romantic relationship. I want her to be honest with me. It's not comfortable if she says you're not doing as good a job as you can be, or, hey, stop sleeping in and get your butt into the gym or do better at work. That's not comfortable. But if we can't do that for each other, then what's the point? I don't know that there is one. I mean, there might be, but it's surface level. Maybe you're just trying to get laid or something, but that's not a real relationship. I want a real relationship, one that is, yes, sure, physical, but also one in which we grow together, because I'm being honest with you in a respectful, empathetic way, and you're being honest with me. And so if you have a friend in your circle who's struggling because they're making poor decisions, then it's your obligation, because you're a friend, your obligation to tell that person, hey man, you're really screwing up. What is going on? What can I help? How can I help? What can I do? If you have a coworker at work who's not pulling his weight like he used to, then reach out to the guy and say, hey man, like, you used to be on top of your game. Man, I remember 6 months ago, you were killing it. You were the top of the office. You were the best salesman. And now you're in like last place. What's happened? What's going on? If somebody in your life is getting a little overweight and maybe they let that holiday fat get to them, then yeah, you need to say something. I know it's not comfortable, but it's like, hey, look, you could even be playful. Hey, I see you put on a few pounds during the holidays. Like, you want to come with me to the gym? Like, let's get that stuff burned off. We can do this. Now, I already know some of you listening to this are like, oh, no, you should never do that. You should never make people feel bad. No, you should. Not to make them feel bad, but to be honest with them so they can grow and develop. That, hey, don't make anybody feel bad. Let's not be offensive. Let's walk on eggshells. That's a modern theory. That's a woke ideology. Heaven forbid somebody be offended. I had somebody tell me the other day, I'm offended because of something I said and something I thought. And they said they were offended. You know what? Be offended. This is what I think. I'll work on my delivery. I'll work on how I communicate it with you. But whether you're offended or not is not really my responsibility. Again, I'm going to try to deliver it with clarity, with tact, with empathy and love. But, if you're going to be offended by something, be offended. Our grandfathers had to storm the beaches of Normandy and face bullets and death and watch death and destruction and bloodshed all around them. And you're offended because somebody said, hey, it looks like you could lose a few pounds. Well, that's on you. We could all toughen up a little bit and we could all be a little bit more truthful and honest. Again, disclaimer, in empathetic, kind, caring ways. This is not a permission slip to be a dick, by the way. There's many people in this men's space who think that this is my truth. I'm just sharing my truth. Fine, but that doesn't give you a permission slip to be an asshole to the people that you care about. Do it tactfully. Do it respectfully. Do it with the right motive. And it might be a little harsh, but you know what? That might be what the person needs. But again, it's not a permission slip just to be a jerk to people. I think we can do better than that. And we should, because we want to influence people in positive and healthy directions. Now, the reason I brought that last one up about being truthful with others is because if you're truthful with other people, then you will inevitably respect truth yourself. If I go out of my way and put a relationship on the line in order to be truthful with a brother who needs to hear something, that when a brother says something to me that needs to be said, I'm going to respect it more because I know how hard it is. I know how uncomfortable it is. I know how much of a risk it is because I do it myself. If we embody truth, then we will recognize, acknowledge, and honor when other people are willing to be truthful with us. And guys, this is the only path forward. You can't come up with a good strategy if you're not operating in reality. Imagine you're going to play a football game against a team. Pick a team. I don't care. I don't really follow football that much, but pick a team. What do guys do? Well, they study film and they study players and they study their tendencies and they study their athletes and what they're good at and what they're not good at. They're looking to exploit weaknesses and looking at to minimize their strengths. This is what you do. But imagine you're going to go play the Seahawks, but instead of studying film for the Seahawks, you study film for the Green Bay Packers. What's the point of that? You have to study what's actually happening, what you're actually confronted with, and that's the truth. You have to study for what you're actually dealing with. That is the reality of your situation, your strengths, your weaknesses, your shortcomings, your vices. But the truth is what's going to set you free. It's not comfortable. It's not pleasant. So if you want to be comfortable and pleasant, don't tell me you're worried about self-development because you're not. If you want to be comfortable and pleasant, go sit on the couch, play your PlayStation, watch your football games, eat all the bonbons and chips and salsa, have people wait on you, show up for work at your bare minimum, do the bare minimum, punch out exactly as you can. Don't take on extra shifts. Don't take on projects. Never go to the gym. Do that. Keep doing that. But if you're here listening to the Order of Man podcast, then you're interested in self-development, which means that you have to be truthful and honest with yourself. All right. Enough with beating the dead horse. Let me reiterate, and we'll close it out. Number one, you're going to commit to the truth, regardless of how painful it is. You're going to let people speak that into you. Number two, you're going to quantify your results. Get on the scale, pull up the bank account, have the conversation with your wife, do the sales performance and review with your boss. Number three, surround yourself with truth tellers, honor them, embrace them, let them know and encourage them to be truthful with you. Number four, along those same lines, don't let your emotions sabotage you when somebody actually tells you the truth. If it's fat, if you're fat and they say you're fat, you can be mad about that. And maybe you should be mad about that, but that's on you. It's the truth. It's objectively true. That's it. Period. End of discussion. Facts don't care about your feelings. And then number five, begin to tell the truth to others. You got to tell the truth. You got to commit to it. And that's what committing does is I'm going to tell it to other people if they need to hear it. All right, guys. I hope that helps. Let me know if there's anything else you would do or any other feedback. And also let me know if there's people that you would like me to reach out to get on the podcast, because I'd be happy to reach out to those individuals and have a really thought-provoking, powerful conversation with them. You can email me or message me on Instagram or Twitter at Ryan Mickler, or email me at ryan@orderofman.com. All right, you guys, go out there, tell the truth, embrace the truth, and become the man you are meant to be.